Boston, often celebrated as the Athens of America, holds a unique place in the nation's history, earning its reputation as the birthplace of many political ideas that helped shape the United States. It's a city steeped in history, where moments like the American Revolution and the Battle of Concord remain ever present in the streets, architecture, and spirit of the place. One of Boston's most iconic landmarks is Harvard University, a name synonymous with prestige and intellectual influence around the world. For many, it's a dream destination, the epitome of higher learning. But behind the prestige of this world-renowned institution and the academic achievements it stands for, there's a stark contrast. Thousands of individuals are struggling with homelessness, braving the harsh weather in makeshift tents lining the city's sidewalks. In recent years, the number of people experiencing homelessness in Boston has been on the rise. From 5,202 individuals in 2023, this figure increased by 10.6% to 5,756 in 2024. While this is still 11.3% lower than the peak of 6,492 individuals in 2015, the city is seeing a renewed urgency around the homelessness crisis. The pandemic led to a significant decrease in available shelter beds for adults, further intensifying the issue. As rental prices and overall housing costs soared, more people found themselves turning to shelters as a last resort. For some, it's a temporary measure, but for many, it's the only option available as they face limited affordable housing. On March 11th, state emergency shelter systems reported that about half of the families registered were migrants, refugees, or asylum seekers. Migrants made up roughly 25% of the occupants in shelters for individuals. At Pine Street Inn, the largest homeless shelter in New England, an overwhelming 61% of the new arrivals reported that they were from Haiti. Boston's homeless population faces a particular struggle against the city's brutal winters. When temperatures drop below freezing, the stakes become life-threatening. For those without stable shelter, the harsh cold means more than discomfort. It can be a matter of survival. Many seek temporary refuge in subway stations or public buildings just to stay warm, highlighting how deeply intertwined homelessness and the city's extreme weather can be. According to Boston indicators, the homelessness crisis in the city is fueled by skyrocketing housing costs, a shortage of affordable housing stock, and gentrification that pushes low-income residents out of their communities. These forces have created a reality where, despite Boston's prosperous image, an increasing number of people are left without stable housing in a city they once called home. Boston's cost of living is among the highest in the world, and in 2024, data from Numbeo ranks it as the 5th most expensive city globally, just behind Geneva and Zurich in Switzerland, as well as New York City and San Francisco. The high expenses cover everything from rent and groceries to transportation, childcare, and even recreational activities like dining out or attending events. According to Numbeo's estimates, a family of 4 in Boston can expect monthly living costs of around $5,320, excluding rent. For a single person, it's approximately $1,460. While Boston's cost of living is about 12.8% cheaper than New York City, the most expensive city in the US, housing costs remain staggering. Renting a one-bedroom apartment near downtown Boston, for instance, averages around $3,115 per month, making it the second most expensive in the world for this type of accommodation. Compared to the national average, these rental prices are substantially higher. Many residents find themselves spending nearly half of their income just on rent, especially if they live alone. To cope, It's common for people in Boston to share living spaces with friends or family members, allowing them to split costs and make life in the city more affordable. Food costs are also steep, with restaurants and groceries priced well above other cities. Contributing factors include high taxes and increased distribution costs, which raise prices across the board. For those who enjoy dining out, a simple meal at an average restaurant can cost around $15 to $20 per person. On the brighter side, Boston offers a well-established public transportation network with subway and bus services that are relatively affordable. However, for those who rely on personal vehicles, parking expenses can be staggering. In central areas, hourly parking can range from $10 to $15, while monthly rates easily exceed $300. Ironically, for the price of an hour of parking, homeless individuals in areas like Copley Square can buy a meal from a food truck, enjoying options like tacos, gyros, or burgers. This high cost of living is prompting many young adults to consider leaving the city. Studies show that about 25% of Boston residents in their 20s and 30s are planning to relocate within the next 5 years, driven by the financial strain and intense job competition that make it difficult to sustain a comfortable lifestyle in Boston. Homelessness in Boston is often intertwined with the issue of substance abuse, particularly opioid addiction. Many people caught in this cycle gather in an area known as Mass and Cass, the intersection of Massachusetts Avenue and Melnia Cass Boulevard. This location has become notorious as Boston's epicenter of homelessness, addiction, and mental health crises. Tents frequently line the sidewalks here, with individuals struggling to survive while facing addiction. In fact, the Boston Globe has described Mass and Cass as a notorious open-air drug market. The rise in drug overdose deaths is alarming. From 2019 to 2023, overdose-related deaths surged by 40.5% per 100,000 Boston residents. Examining the impact on specific communities reveals a more concerning picture. Over this 5-year span, overdose death rates increased by a staggering 124.5% among Black residents and 44.2% among Latin residents. Opioid-related overdoses claim lives across age groups, with 48% of victims between 25 and 44 years old, and 43% between 45 and 64. Certain areas, such as the South End and Roxbury, show visible signs of the opioid epidemic's grip on Boston. People facing addiction often end up on the streets with little access to mental health services or affordable rehabilitation centers. The lack of accessible health care for those who are most vulnerable perpetuates a cycle that is difficult to escape. For years, Boston has tried various strategies to address the Mass and Cass crisis. Efforts have ranged from setting up hotlines to report discarded needles, dismantling tent encampments, enforcing public safety by removing loiterers, and directing people to shelters or treatment centers. Despite these efforts, the individuals affected often return, setting up tents once again, as they have nowhere else to go and few resources to support lasting change. In Boston, prostitution exists in a concealed manner, largely due to the city's conservative stance on law and social order. This doesn't mean the industry is absent, rather, it's hidden behind a veil of discretion. Take, for example, a recent case in November 2023, where local investigators exposed a prostitution ring that generated over $1 million across several years. The accused were charged with violating federal sex trafficking laws by running an underground network of brothels and exclusive clubs. They operated out of luxury rental apartments in Massachusetts, offering women and discreet services to high-profile clients. This case made headlines because the clientele allegedly included politicians, professors, military officers, pharmaceutical executives, and other influential figures. Previously, we discussed the Mass and Cass area, well known for issues surrounding homelessness and addiction. This area also has a significant link to prostitution. For individuals struggling with homelessness or addiction, prostitution sometimes becomes a means of survival, a way to meet basic needs or sustain their habits. Disparities in how prostitution cases are handled reveal an uncomfortable truth about the justice system. In one recent sting operation, a government employee caught soliciting was able to escape charges after a lawyer persuaded the court clerk. Meanwhile, 3 women, unable to afford legal representation, faced criminal charges for prostitution. Statistics show that cases involving men are nearly twice as likely to be dismissed by court clerks, especially if the defendant has a lawyer. This inequity often leaves sex workers facing harsher consequences than their clients, highlighting a justice system that disproportionately burdens the vulnerable while allowing those with privilege to navigate around consequences. Alongside disparities in how prostitution cases are managed, Boston also grapples with the persistent threat of gang-related crime, impacting residents' sense of safety. According to 2024 data from Neighborhood Scout, Boston's crime rate stands at 6.6 incidents per 1,000 residents, which translates to approximately 4,293 violent crimes, more than double the state average for Massachusetts. In addition to gang activity, other serious crimes have shown an uptick. Reports of sexual assault rose from 186 to 194 cases, while robberies increased from 778 to 845. Overall, Boston's crime rate surpasses the national average, with roughly 25 criminal incidents per 1,000 residents. A recent report from CBS News highlighted a significant crackdown on gang activity in Boston, with more than 40 members of the Heath Street Gang arrested on various charges. This gang, known to operate around the Mildred C. Haley apartments in Jamaica Plain, is involved in a range of criminal enterprises, including murder, shootings, COVID-19 related fraud, and retail theft. Gang members frequently use illegal firearms to carry out their activities. What's more alarming is that some gang members reportedly involve children in their operations, assigning them roles as lookouts, and even drawing them into drug distribution and violent confrontations. Certain members have shown a troubling sense of pride in their violent acts, sharing videos and photos of their crimes on social media. This gang has reportedly amassed over $900,000 from COVID-19 relief fraud and thefts from stores such as Nordstrom and Victoria's Secret. Property crime in Boston also poses a risk, with a 1 in 54 chance of becoming a victim of incidents like vehicle theft or break-ins. Despite these challenges, many residents report feeling safe walking around during the daytime, although this sense of security tends to diminish after dark.